Hi, I'm Dara. Thanks for stopping by. I just finished making these quilted multi-purpose absorbent baby pads for my niece. I've made some project notes, so keep watching and I'll show you what I did. I'm going to be working on a small project for my niece who's having a baby this summer. I want to make something that I'm going to call crib pads. There's a story to them, but in the meantime, here's what I have. I'm going to use flannel on the outside of the towel and make them kind of like a quilted pad that she can use either in the crib to absorb eruptions from the baby or on the change table. Okay, so I've got my flannel sheet cut up, and this is the basic construction of my crib pad. I'm gonna make 2 smaller ones and 2 larger ones, just because that's the way my towels worked out, and I didn't want to have so much wastage on my towel. So before I do anything else, I'm gonna draw my quilting lines on here. And they don't have to be perfect, and I want them on an angle, like in a diamond shape. So I'm just going to start at the corner. Here's my one side of the crib pad, the flannel. I've marked my quilting lines and I've cut out my little elephant motif. I've played around with the gray and the purple, and I've settled on the gray elephant with just a purple ear. And I'm going to use this lighter color to attach the ear to the elephant and attach the elephant to the flannel before I sandwich the pad together and machine quilt it. So my elephant's sewed on by hand. There's a bit of stretch because I used t-shirt material. So when I quilt the sandwich together, I'm going to be going over top to bring it a little bit more secure. So I'll just have to be super careful that it doesn't bunch up, and I'll show you how it turned out. Here, so here's my bottom layer. Here's my piece of cut towel in the middle. And here's my marked top with my elephant motif. Is a little bit smaller, so now there's the edge of my towel, so I want to make sure my elephant is actually gonna land. Yeah, I think that's okay. I think it could just be a little bit further up. Okay, time to pin. Finished sewing all my lines, and what I did was I started, I don't know if the threads show, but I did one line at a time. I didn't spin it around. I started and ended after each line, and I didn't get any puckers at the back. So now I'm going to trim it up. This is what I have to work with for the binding. Well, this is what I would like to use because it's the only purple fabric I have. It's a knit, it's a t-shirt. So I'm going to cut it at 2 inches. Okay, so I finished sewing on my binding, and because it's a knit, I was able to go around the curves, not too, without any hassle. I may have to trim that a little bit to get the binding over because I made a narrow binding. And I do have a couple of sections that aren't, you know, that have a bit of a fold in them, but I'm just going to fudge that as I turn it over and hand sew it down. And then here is my join. And I'm just going to trim it right now. Just enough. So that'll just have an overlap. And what's nice about the knit is it doesn't fray, so I don't have to, you know, fold in that end. I'm about to start on another crib pad, and I don't want to make any more purple elephants, and I'm out of purple fabric. I have this small scrap of baby flannel left over from something I made for a baby quite a long time ago, and I really like the gray and blue animals, and I've tried on a scrap of the flannel some raw edge applique, and I think it turned out pretty good. So I'm going to cut out a couple of more of these raccoons, and I wonder what these guys are. Maybe little foxes? I don't know. Anyway, for sure the raccoons and these little foxes, and I think they'll look cute on the gray flannel. So I'm going to cut a few more of those out. I could do it like that, or I could do a little cluster. Or I could just put one. Let's try one, because none of these is appealing to me. So I like the little raccoons the best. So I could just put him there all by his little self. And he looks kind of lonely. So if I give him a little friend. I always like threes. Maybe like that. So I finished this one, and there's the little applique critters. I had this long sleeve t-shirt. It was one sleeve for the binding, and I kind of like the way the stripe looks. So that's pad number 2. And that's the back. I actually kind of like the blue and gray together a lot more than the purple and gray. I also had some baby flannel left in a pale blue with a little sheep on it. I clipped all the corners, turned under the edge, or sorry, pressed the edge under, and then machine sewed it down. And then I've got my machine quilting grid going here. So I'm going to use this to bind it. I think it coordinates enough. Okay, I have the first seam of the binding completed on my next crib pad. And when I did this one, I hand stitched the other side of the binding, and it's nice and invisible. I'm happy with the way that looks. But just to be, you know, different, I want to try machine stitching to see how it looks. And then for my last one, I'll decide whether to machine or hand. So I just thought I would show what it looks like and mention that using the cotton knit, actually I think it's a cotton poly knit, for the binding is a bit of a pain because it can get twisted. But it means that to go around the curved edges, it doesn't have to be cut on the bias, number one, because it just stretches. And the thing I like the best about it is when the binding is meeting at the end, there's no need for anything fancy. It can just all be tucked in because that doesn't fray. Let me get in the frame. That doesn't fray, so it can just be stitched down, and the joining seams are not bulky either when the binding is being pieced. So if I find this one, this is the completed one, it's stitched down and it's nearly invisible, and that's not going to fray. So that's for me why I like doing the binding in the cotton knit or an old t-shirt in my case. I have the binding all turned over and clipped down. My plan is to sew it with this side facing up. This is the seam I just finished sewing, and I'm going to stitch along here, and with any luck it's going to catch this. Okay, so that is nice and invisible on the right side, and so there's a spot that it didn't catch, there's a spot, there's a whole section that it didn't catch, another section, and another section. So unless I might get better as I go along, I'm going to try and do the last one that I have to do. Attempt number 2. Still a few areas that did not catch, and some areas that I just don't like the look of that. So I'm not going to pick it out, but I think I'm just going to fix up the rest. Oh, I'm gonna pick that out. I don't like the way that looks at all. Okay, well, I'm glad I tried it, but for me, either it's my machine or my skills are just too inconsistent I'm not happy with this appearance. So if I compare it to my hand sewing one, it is much neater on the back side compared to something like this. So I've got some picking to do and some repairing to do before I throw these in the wash to call it done. Here's my crib pads just come out of the dryer. The washable marker has washed off, no problem. So I've got my one purple elephant there, which, you know, I think it's kind of cute. And then I've got my little characters from my flannel print. And these two are bigger ones, and they each have a heart on them with the sheep. And I'm really pleased with how they turned out. They are extremely soft, and they're going to be very durable and have a lot of uses. I made pads similar to this for my second child, who is now 26. Once my second one was finished with them, they were then used by 4 more babies in our family, 5 actually. Myself and my sister-in-law and her sister all found these multi-purpose pads, absorbent pads, to be really useful in the first few months of baby's life. So because my niece is having a baby this summer, I've made some for her to carry on the family tradition. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.